The future, our future, a haven of stability, security, and prosperity, a sanctuary. New York City, the year 2023. Humanity founded and established the system that will make our citizens safe. Unveiling the grid was the zenith of human progress. Crime is now almost non existent. Plurality detected.
The future. Our future. A corrupt and oppressive sector in which we all fight against the system. The grid, the cancer that killed our former way of life. We rebelled, and in 2028, 5 years after it went online, we steeled ourselves and resolved to use a taboo of technological advancement to stop it. Gridlocked is a sci-fi action-adventure game available for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Steam. Gridlocked will feature a modern, realistic art style, similar to newer games such as Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, and Beyond Two Souls. Gridlocked will be made in a CGI, hyper-realistic format. This will assist the player in becoming immersed in the world environment they are being introduced to. This art style will give the player a more direct connection to the characters they play, as well as the environment they are enjoying.
The grid revolutionizes the way our society functions as a whole, a system built on civilian convenience. The genetic recognition and identification database system is installed in a vast variety of locations throughout our great city.
The player begins the game as a plurality, a doppelganger of a seemingly random citizen. As the plurality, your mission is to evade and destroy the grid nodes in each sector, allowing you access to the central system. The player will be able to choose from a list of skills to equip their character with, powering them up. Each skill has its own unique control over the grid, and the player can unlock them through the black market. Every time a sector goes offline, the player will be awarded with a skill upgrade to increase a skill's power and effects. The player gains control of their plurality in a randomly picked set of locations depending on factors such as the plurality's occupation or traits they may possess.
Our citizens possess varying skill sets to help our city thrive. Doctors, scholars, police, and so many more. The populace here are studious, upstanding, quality members of society and conform to the high standards set by our system every day.
As the plurality, you will have access to a plethora of different skills and abilities. Some are innate to your plurality due to their occupation, while others may be learned through various means, or even purchased, if you know the right people. Skills such as pickpocketing, allowing you to gain funds from the citizens of 2023, as well as connections, which allow you to buy more items from the right people. Grid Vision allows the player to send out a pulse that will highlight surfaces showing where the grid has been installed. This way the player can look for different opportunities to circumvent the grid. Another skill is Grid Detection, which highlights grid devices such as cameras, monitors, and other things. This allows the player to know not just where these devices are, but show a sight path of the device for a certain amount of time, allowing you to stroll by with little worry of being detected. Grid Cloaking is a grid manipulation ability, forcing it to show multiple pluralities in an area, creating clones of the player. This will confuse the grid and the police chasing after the player. Grid Jamming creates a small, network blackout in a centralized area for a certain amount of time, allowing the player to get through tougher grid-enforced areas. The player's objective is to avoid detection from the grid and to destroy the grid control node in that sector. The grid's capabilities are diverse. The player must be aware of what they interact with and what is around them, as certain activities will alert the grid to your presence. Worst of all is the lockdown procedure that will begin if you are observed, blocking off escape and hindering your progress.
Highly trained from the best and brightest officers of the law in NYC will be able to help all those in need in our city utilizing the grid for assistance. The grid informs the police of unusual presences in your area or attempts at unauthorized access, keeping you and your family safe.
The player will hear audio cues that will assist them in evading the grid's lockdown sequence. Careless actions may trigger rapid changes in heartbeat accompanied by erratic audio. Subtle audio cues may also inform the player of impending changes in grid activity that may not be readily noticeable within the player's current scope of play. The grid recognizes your travel patterns in an attempt to cut you off and lock you down. The grid will populate the world with scanners, humanoid holograms, to look for the player if they are suspected to be in the area. Every wrought surface has a high potential of the grid being worked into it. Keeping to biological materials such as wood, stone, is an advantage you won't soon forget. The grid is infused into the city. Evasion from its detection is difficult, but if you know where to be, when to be, we can strike where it's most vulnerable.
Every shop, train station, apartment complex, even phones in your front door will receive this wondrous state-of-the-art technology.
Certain actions you perform or decisions you make can cause an increase or decrease in your plurality stress level. We're only human after all. The player's stress level will be monitored and dictated by a player's successes and failures throughout the game. Stress levels will decrease when the player succeeds at a task, while the stress levels will increase if the player fails a task. The rate of increase or decrease in stress is dictated by how complex the task is. The higher a player's stress level is, the more complex the task becomes. If the player reaches a stress level of 100%, the plurality will give up and be subdued, and will be game over for that plurality. Make smart choices as you attempt to reach your objective, as every action has a consequence. The player's successes and failures are dictated by QuickTime events. These are events of button sequences the player must complete in the correct order to succeed. Miss a step in a sequence and it counts as a failure. Some QuickTime events include avoiding detection through hiding, running away from the authorities, pickpocketing, hacking the grid, fighting when necessary, and these are just a few examples. In the city, the player will experience the passage of time, as well as the changes to the weather conditions. These changes will affect how the player should address the environment. Weather conditions can either aid or hurt the player. Clear weather will offer no changes for the player, while fog will aid in the player's escape, and rain will make escaping more difficult. During the day, the player will have an easier time moving around due to the large crowds in the city, while at night, stealth will be the best tactic, as the patrols will be thicker from the police. Being detected the first time is not the end. You are highly skilled in evading the grid's defenses, and can avoid detection up to 3 times before the grid triangulates your position. The plurality's objective is complete when the main grid is shut down, and its server destroyed. The city's police, and a man named Detective Foucault, especially, are a constant threat to the player. The grid feeds him information on your whereabouts, and he also actively tracks our kind. Failure does not mean we quit. The player has 3 chances to escape the grid once lockdown has initiated. When the player is captured by the grid, or subdued by the police, the player may respawn as a new plurality.
Our sanctuary welcomes everyone with arms wide open. Freedom to all.